Hey guys, Dr. Brad Bodle here and welcome back to my channel. Now we all know that nutrition plays a key role in supporting our thyroid healing, and choosing the right foods can be the difference between consistent and steady progress and gradual decline. And although I like to talk about the foods that you should be eating, today we're going to talk about the 5 foods to avoid if you have thyroid problems. And if you like this kind of information and enjoy learning about natural strategies to help support your thyroid gland, then remember to subscribe to the channel and also ring the bell. That way you'll be notified when I post new videos every single Thursday. My specialty is in helping women with Hashimoto's and low thyroid to lose weight and improve their energy naturally. And I know there's a lot of information out there on what foods you should and shouldn't be eating. But because I work with patients every single day, and I've done this for years now, kind of strange to think about, I know which foods will actually move the needle for people and which ones you don't have to worry so much about. So let's start off today by talking about the first group of foods that we want to avoid, which is grains. Now, if you've watched my content before, you probably knew this one was coming, but you might not know why grains can be problematic for our thyroid. While it's true that most people will recommend a gluten-free diet for people with thyroid problems, I think it's important to expand that to all grains, at least in the beginning, and here's why. Most of the time when people hear that they should go gluten-free, they think, oh, I just have to go to the store and buy all the things that are labeled gluten-free. But here's a pro tip for you. Anything that is advertising that it's gluten-free is probably something that you want to avoid. Buying foods that are naturally gluten-free? Great. But buying foods that are artificially created with other grains to mimic gluten, well, we still might have some problems there. These are processed foods after all, and for some people who are particularly sensitive to gluten, these other grains look molecularly similar to gluten, and so they can cause similar reactions. So when I recommend going grain-free, I don't just mean the gluten-containing grains of wheat, barley, and rye, but I also think we should include the gluten-free grains of millet, sorghum, buckwheat, quinoa, corn, and rice, just to name a few. Now, I would like to point out that down the road, when your health is a little bit more stable, choosing some of these gluten-free options can be a great choice for you, especially if you're trying to recreate some old favorites. However, in the beginning, I think it would be prudent for you to completely avoid all grains and then reintroduce them and try to figure out which ones work best for you. Number 2 on our list of foods to avoid is dairy. And there's a number of reasons why dairy can be problematic for people with thyroid issues. The first is that, just like gluten, which is a complex protein that is difficult for our bodies to deal with and break down, dairy products have a protein called casein, which can present similar problems. Casein is highly reactive, can cause gut inflammation, and if you have autoimmunity associated with your thyroid dysfunction, casein has the propensity to increase the likelihood of autoimmune flare-ups as well. And just to be clear and reiterate a quick point, casein is a protein in dairy products. So any milk from any animal is going to have some amount of casein in one form or another in that product. It is not the sugar that many people think they have problems with. So if you go to the store and get the lactose-free milk or cheese, it's still going to have casein in it, and if you're sensitive to it, it's going to cause an increased likelihood of problems. Which actually takes us to the second reason that dairy can cause issues, which is lactose. Lactose is one of the common sugars that is found in milk products, and in some research, it's been shown that the consumption of lactose can increase our levels of TSH. Now remember, the relationship between TSH and thyroid hormone production is usually inverse. The higher TSH is, the lower the amount of thyroid hormone that we're making. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my video on high TSH levels, which I'll link for you in the cards above. The third problem with dairy is that most dairy foods are high in iodine. And you might be saying, Dr. Brad, don't we need iodine for healthy thyroid function? Yes, but people with thyroid problems have an increased sensitivity to iodine, and we're actually going to talk about that more here in a little bit. Lastly, if you're someone who is already taking thyroid medication, specifically levothyroxine, research has also shown that concurrent ingestion of milk with levothyroxine can decrease the absorption of that medication. So if we're already low on thyroid hormone and we need some of that extra support, we shouldn't compound the problem by preventing the absorption of your full dosage. Next on our list is legumes, which includes foods like peas, lentils, beans, peanuts, and soybeans. Now I know that legumes are traditionally seen as healthy, and I don't mean to include them to try to make things more confusing. However, it's just a fact of the matter that legumes are generally more difficult for people to digest. And for people with thyroid problems, it's very common that they also have associated gastrointestinal issues. So if you're already having issues with your gut and you throw something in there that really requires you to be on top of your game, it's going to make things more difficult for you and can lead to increased symptoms like bloating, gas production, and also changes in bowel movements. Additionally, legumes, especially soy, can be high in anti-nutrients like phytic acid. Anti-nutrients are just compounds that prevents the normal absorption of vitamin and minerals. And phytic acid can prevent the absorption of things like iron, which is particularly important for our thyroid gland, zinc, and calcium. Speaking of soy, I see enough of my patients negatively react to it that I really think you should avoid it even if you're planning on including some legumes like peas and green beans. The research on soy and whether it's fine or not for people with thyroid problems is a little bit more mixed than my experience in practice, and it may be okay for people who have adequate iodine intake. However, soy is another one of those food compounds, like dairy, that can interfere with the absorption of thyroid medication. So if you're already taking medication, you'll want to be careful with your ingestion of soy. All right, 3 down, 2 to go, but leave me a comment and let me know what you think so far. And if you've removed any of the foods that we've talked about so far and seen an improvement in your thyroid symptoms, I'd love to hear about it. Number 4 on our list is sugar. And maybe this one goes without saying, as most of us should be avoiding or at least limiting our sugar intake. But when it comes to thyroid problems, we have to be even more diligent about the amount of sugar that we're consuming. Low thyroid hormone or changes in thyroid hormone pathways can lead to a decrease in insulin sensitivity. That means if we're consuming more sugar, our ability to deal with that is compromised because we don't have the efficiency of our insulin signaling pathways. That means that our blood sugar can become more elevated and stay high for an extended period of time. This can lead to inflammation and further dysfunction of our thyroid gland. In fact, research has shown that people who have already been diagnosed with thyroid problems should also be screened for blood sugar issues because there's such a high correlation between the two problems. Also, case studies have shown that as thyroid hormone levels improve, the need for blood sugar lowering medications decreases. And people with insulin-dependent type 2 diabetes who have also been diagnosed with Hashimoto's are at an increased risk of having other autoimmune issues. The point is that these things go both ways. Thyroid issues can lead to blood sugar problems, and blood sugar problems can lead to thyroid issues. The best way that we can manage it is by reducing our overall sugar intake. Our last category of foods to avoid may come as a bit of a surprise, and it is high iodine foods, which you can think of as milk and dairy, and seafood, including scallops, cod, seaweed, and kelp. Now, as we briefly touched on in the dairy section, isn't iodine needed for thyroid function? And the answer to that is yes, and low iodine can be problematic as well. But just because some iodine is good doesn't mean that more iodine is better, and that's typically the recommendations that you see from different practitioners and online. While it can be a little tricky to nail down exactly how much iodine is too much, it has been consistently shown that when iodine is added to a population's food supply, it will increase the likelihood of having autoimmune issues. Additionally, people who have already been diagnosed with Hashimoto's or autoimmune thyroid, providing them with 250 micrograms of iodine per day has been shown to increase the likelihood of dysfunction in the thyroid gland. Other research has made the recommendation that supplements with 500 micrograms of iodine should be avoided for the same reasons. And even though the recommended daily intake of iodine is 150 micrograms, some studies have suggested that we should only be supplementing with that amount if we are not living in an environment or in a food system that already has iodine added to it. Lastly, and this is a really key take-home point if you've been suffering with autoimmune thyroid or hypothyroidism, which is that the taking of iodine can induce hyperthyroidism in some of these sensitive populations. So although you might take iodine and feel better for a period of time, there's an increased likelihood that this could worsen your autoimmune symptoms over time. So if you've already been diagnosed with thyroid problems, you need to realize that you have a higher likelihood of being sensitive to iodine. And if we use the recommended daily intake of 150 micrograms as our upper threshold, we need to be aware that foods like milk and dairy and seafood have the potential to have us consuming many times more than that recommended amount. Again, I'm not saying that these foods are necessarily unhealthy for everyone, but if you're struggling with thyroid symptoms, it would be wise to watch your overall intake. So there you have it, you guys. Those are the 5 groups of foods that you should avoid if you have thyroid problems and you want to look and feel your best. And they include grains, dairy, legumes, sugar, and high iodine foods. And if you want to start making some changes but don't know where to start and need some extra support, send me an email at contact@seattlethyroidhelp.com. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you'd like to get signed up for a free one-on-one consultation to see if we would be a good fit to work together, then we can do that as well. Lastly, don't forget to download my free guide, which is 109 foods to boost your thyroid and improve your energy, and you can get that at the link in the description box below. I love and appreciate you all. I hope you're doing well, and thanks for hanging out with me today. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who could benefit from it. My name is Dr. Bodle, and I'll see you guys next Thursday.